Imagine discovering that somewhere in the world, another version of you exists. He has your face, your voice, your smile, even your DNA, but you've never met him. He grew up in a completely different family, in a different city, sometimes even in a different country. Would the two of you become completely different people? Or would you somehow end up strangely alike? For decades, scientists desperately wanted the answer. It became one of the biggest questions in psychology. Nature or nurture? Are we shaped more by our genes or by the world around us? There was only one way to find out. Study identical twins, especially twins raised apart, because identical twins share almost the same DNA. They begin life with the same genetic blueprint, yet their lives can take completely different paths. Some are separated by tragedy, others by adoption, and a few were separated under circumstances that remain controversial. These children grew up without knowing each other existed. Different parents, different schools, different neighborhoods, different friends, different experiences. Scientists believe these twins held the key to understanding human nature. If they became alike, genes were incredibly powerful. If they became different, environment mattered more. The answer would influence psychology for generations. Researchers around the world began collecting twin stories. Some were ordinary. Others seemed impossible. One case stood out above the rest. It involved two identical twin brothers. They had been separated shortly after birth. Each was adopted by a different family. Neither family knew the other. The brothers grew up only a short distance apart, yet they had no idea they had a twin. Years passed. They went to different schools, built different lives, made different friends, believed they were only children. Then fate stepped in. As adults, they finally learned the truth. Somewhere nearby lived someone with the exact same face. They agreed to meet. Friends and relatives gathered to watch. Nobody knew what to expect. The moment they saw each other, the room fell silent. It was like looking into a mirror. Even strangers struggled to tell them apart. But that wasn't the shocking part. The real surprise came when they started talking. Their lives contained unbelievable similarities, similar habits, similar preferences, similar personalities. Some coincidences sounded too strange to be real. Scientists carefully wrote everything down. They knew they were witnessing something extraordinary. And this was only the beginning. What they discovered next would challenge everything people thought they knew about human identity. The first question researchers asked was simple. Had the brothers ever met before? The answer was no. They had lived completely separate lives. Yet the similarities kept piling up. Both had suffered from migraines. Both enjoyed the same hobbies. Both loved working with their hands. Both had remarkably similar handwriting. Both laughed in almost the same way. Their voices sounded nearly identical. Even their facial expressions matched. They often crossed their legs the same way. They used the same gestures while speaking. They paused in conversation at the same moments. It was almost impossible to ignore. Then came an even stranger case. Two identical twins named Jim. They became known as the Jim twins. They had been separated just weeks after birth. They grew up in different homes. Neither knew the other existed. Nearly 40 years later, they finally met. What happened next amazed everyone. Both had been named James by their adoptive parents. Both were called Jim for short. Both loved mathematics. Both disliked spelling. Both enjoyed woodworking. Both bit their nails. Both suffered from severe headaches. Both had worked in law enforcement-related jobs. Both had married women named Linda. Both had sons. One named his son James Allen. The other named his son James Allen. The names differed by only one letter. Both owned dogs named Toy. Even researchers checked the records twice. They thought there had to be a mistake. There wasn't. Every detail was real. News of the twins spread around the world. People couldn't believe it. Some called it destiny. Others called it proof that genes control everything. Scientists were more cautious. They knew extraordinary stories could be misleading. One case could never answer such a big question. So they continued studying more twins. Hundreds of pairs took part. Some were raised together. Others were raised apart. Researchers compared their personalities, their intelligence, their health, their interests, their fears, their habits. Again and again, the results pointed in the same direction. Identical twins raised apart were often far more alike than anyone expected. Even after decades of living separate lives, their DNA seemed to leave a powerful fingerprint. But there was one discovery that changed the entire story, because not everything was the same. Some differences were impossible to ignore, and those differences revealed something just as important as the similarities. The experiment was about to take an unexpected turn. The truth was far more complicated than anyone had imagined. The twins looked alike. They sounded alike. They even behaved alike in many situations. But they were not identical in every way. Some loved taking risks. Others preferred playing it safe. Some became outgoing. Others stayed quiet. Their beliefs often differed. Their friendships were different. Their careers sometimes took completely opposite directions. Their experiences had changed them. Scientists finally understood something important. DNA is incredibly powerful, but it doesn't control every decision you make. Your environment matters too. The people around you shape your future. Your experiences leave permanent marks. Every success teaches you something. Every failure changes you. Nature and nurture work together. Neither one tells the whole story. Then another twist emerged. Researchers uncovered a controversial project. It became known years later through investigations. Some adoption agencies had quietly placed identical twins into different families. In several cases, the families were never told. The children were never told either. Researchers wanted to observe their lives. They believed they were conducting valuable science, but the children never gave consent. Neither did their adoptive parents. Many people were shocked when this became public. Critics called it deeply unethical. They argued that human lives should never be treated like laboratory experiments. The debate continues. Even today, science can answer important questions, but it also has ethical limits. Discovery should never come at the cost of human dignity. The twin study changed psychology forever. It showed that genes influence personality, intelligence, and many behaviors. It also proved that life experiences matter enormously. You are not only your DNA, you are also every choice you've made, every person you've met, every challenge you've overcome, every lesson you've learned. Your genes write the opening chapter. Your life writes the rest. Somewhere in another world, your identical twin might have become a completely different person, or someone surprisingly familiar. We'll never know every possibility. But these studies revealed one unforgettable truth. Human beings are far more complex than anyone once believed. We are shaped by both biology and experience. That combination makes every life unique. Even when two people begin with the exact same DNA, the story of identical twins reminds us that identity is never simple. And perhaps the biggest mystery isn't how similar twins become. It's how every human being becomes uniquely themselves.